Good evening, listeners. I think perhaps I should start by a very trifling correction. What I'll have to say to you tonight is primarily concerned with the foreign position itself, and the limitations of time will make it impossible for me to go with any degree of elaboration into our own position in relation to those affairs, though I shall say something very briefly about that position. Now, in a broadcast of 15 minutes, there will clearly be no time to make a complete general survey of our international position, or even of the special problems of international politics in Europe. What I propose to do, therefore, is to center my attention on one or two points which I think are worth making and worth emphasizing. I don't want you to think from this that these are, in my opinion, the only points that matter, because if there is one thing I believe most strongly, it is that a good deal of harm is done to our thinking on these matters by attempting to oversimplify them. The problem of our foreign relations, and I mean by that the foreign relations of the British people, is never simple. We have, if I may use that phrase, far too many irons in the fire for that. But at the same time, it is always possible to throw light on the problem and on those relations by giving some emphasis to certain considerations which are commonly overlooked. The first thing I want to emphasize is that the present European position is not the result of a sudden development. It has been brewing for 20 years, and some of the ingredients in the brew have been, consciously or unconsciously, contributed by ourselves. From 1919 onwards, the victorious Allied powers had, broadly speaking, a choice of two policies. One was the policy advocated, for example, by Foch. It possessed a simple military quality. It was the policy of keeping Germany down and of keeping peace in Europe on the basis of the new boundaries created by means of force under the peace treaty. Such a policy would involve great armaments and vast expenditures. The philosophy underlying the policy might have been expressed in the homely sentence, "When you knock your opponent down, don't let him get up again." There is some reason for thinking that France would have preferred this policy, but Great Britain would not have it. Such a policy is not attractive to the British temperament. The British citizen is not revengeful. He's always disposed to let bygones be bygones. This is what sometimes deludes some other nations into thinking that the British are sentimental and unwilling to face up to realities. A grave blunder, as you will agree, and as history has repeatedly shown. But in the result, the policy that I've been referring to, the possible policy, the policy of suppression, was not adopted. The other possible policy was to realize that peace could be made real only if it was based upon fair play and justice, with an open negotiation of grievances, and ultimately reduced armaments. Such a policy would have involved, for example, helping Germany in her economic troubles, and so, as we now realize, incidentally, helping ourselves. This, I agree, may sound something like a counsel of perfection, but of its wisdom I have no doubt. I have vivid recollections of a conversation in England last year with Brüning, the former Chancellor of Germany. He is now, in effect, an exile from Germany as a result of the rise to power of the Nazis headed by Hitler.